COVID-19 first case in Malaysia was detected on 25th of January, where 3 Chinese nationals had close contact with infected person in Singapore. After that, they traveled to Malaysia through Singapore, and then on the 24th of January, they were treated at Sungai Buloh Hospital. Since the first Malaysian was confirmed with COVID-19 on the 4th of February, the number slowly grew. There were many new clusters, and the number of the positive cases increased beyond 553 cases on the 16th of March. That's when the Prime Minister of Malaysia had to announce first government control order. That was the starting point when all Malaysians experienced difficulties in terms of working, studying, traveling. That all lead to financial problems. Anyone can be affected emotionally during this outbreak of COVID-19, which may result to stress and depression. So today we will discuss about this topic, lockdown and financial strain.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is HILDA BINTI ABDUL and I am your local journalist. In response to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Malaysian government have implemented Movement Control Order, also known as MCO, from time to time, and there are different levels of MCO at the areas of the presence of COVID-19 depending on the number of active cases in the area. Recently, based from my observation journalist report, I found out that due to the spike of COVID-19 cases in East Malaysia, which was aggravated by the 2-week state election and from an outbreak at the detention center, enhanced movement control order at the areas with high number of cases has been implemented. As a journalist, it is my responsibility to be aware of the current scenarios in Malaysia and inform it to the public to raise their awareness. The current scenarios in Malaysia are as follows, where the international travelling is prohibited as the Malaysian borders remain closed, and this affects the tourism sector. Any activities that require social and mass gatherings such as recreational, cultural and religious activities that are detrimental to safe social distancing are not allowed. All business sectors can remain operational with full compliance to given SOPs. Most employees in both private and public sectors are encouraged to work from home, including management and supervisory levels. All academic institutions are closed and students learn via online learning. Screening and recording body temperatures and keying in data using QR codes or manually as a condition of entering premises are mandatory for everyone, and the media are playing their part through various broadcasting and social platforms by constantly reminding everyone to do so. Please be reminded that any violation of this Act, which is Act 342, can cause the offenders to face penalties of 1,000 ringgit fine and up to 6 months jail. From my perspective, the pandemic has prominent effects on the economic sector. Most business companies face difficulties to sustain salary and rental payment due to the low customer flow, and the unemployment rate is expected to rise due to the closure of operations and businesses. Small business, which depends on daily incomes, has been badly shaken. The increase of financial market volatility due to the ongoing external uncertainties are leading to the tighter domestic financial market conditions. The pandemic affects everyone and all sectors in Malaysia. The government and the citizens of Malaysia must work alongside in revamping ways of improving our country's long-term opportunities. With that, thank you.
Inadvertently, the students will also be negatively affected. To reiterate, the quality of teaching will be compromised as students can no longer enjoy the interaction in the lecture halls and tutorial rooms. In an online setting, it is harder for students to ask questions in a non-invasive way. In a lecture hall or tutorial room setting, everyone can observe each other's body language and have eye contact. Such a setting is usually more conducive for debates and discussions. It is also through such a setting that students can listen to their peers' contribution and continue their discussions outside the formal classes. However, an online classroom is not as conducive to such discussions. Students from less privileged backgrounds in particular will suffer even more. Their challenges include the lack of resources such as a computer to work, photocopy machine, internet access, and a quiet place to study. But when students have to move back to study from home, they no longer enjoy these facilities. When at home, some students may also be distracted by family responsibilities. Postgraduate students, especially those from the science stream, will be most affected as they cannot work in their laboratories. Not only they may not be able to graduate on time, they will also have to worry about their financials and prospect of employability. In all, one can summarize that the disruption caused by COVID-19 imposes additional mental stress and financial concerns for students, as many can no longer attend the traditional lecturers or utilize the facilities in their schools. They may be tempted, at least those who can afford to do so, to purchase laptops and subscribe to a better internet package to minimize disruption. Hence, should online teaching last for a longer period, the less privileged students will likely to suffer longer. One cannot rule out an increase in the rate of students dropping out from college. Above all, students who do not have strong social support will be most susceptible.
The reason why B40 group's voice matters is this is a large group in Malaysia and it plays an important role in the society. And the outbreak has brought many difficulties and challenges to the B40 community. Many B40 groups people lost their job during this pandemic, and that means there's no income. Without income, they cannot guarantee their most basic living needs, such as the most basic living necessities. And the loss of income of middle-aged people in this group also has a great impact on the elderly and children of their family. For example, they may not be able to afford the medical expenses of the elderly and the equipment and mobile data that children need in online learning. At the same time, many people who are from B40 group live in urban areas with high density infrastructure, which may increase the possibility of virus infection and also bring more serious impact on people of this group. In view of the problems that mentioned above, we need to discuss what different social groups can do from the perspective of relieving some burdens and providing some relief for this group. For example, the government should try to take more actions to help this group, and the experts should pay more attention to the affordable housing, medical care and education, and also put forward improvement measures. And other social groups can provide B40 groups people with help and necessities such as masks and food if they can. At the same time, the life strain that caused by this pandemic has also had a certain impact on people's mental health. Therefore, it is also necessary for communities to provide psychological counseling for people in order to relieve their psychological pressure.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day to our lecturer, Cik Sabrina binti Haron. So today I would like to share about the suggestions and steps should be taken to fix the problem. The COVID-19 pandemic actually has not stopped at nation borders. It has affected regardless of nationality, level of education, income or gender. But the same has not been true for its consequences, which have hit the most vulnerable and hardest. Education is no exception. Students from privileged backgrounds, supported by their parents and eager to able to learn, could find their way past closed school doors to alternative learning opportunities. Those from disadvantaged backgrounds often remain shut out when their school shut down. This crisis has exposed many inadequacies and inequities in our education systems, from access to the broadband and computers needed for online education, and the supportive environments needed to focus on learning up to the misalignment between resources and needs. The COVID-19 pandemic has also had a severe impact on higher education as universities closed their premises and countries shut their borders in response to lockdown measures. Although higher education institutions were quick to replace face-to-face lectures with online learning, one of the effects of this pandemic to the students is the student from less privileged backgrounds and lack of resources to study. Before this even started, student does not have any issues completing the assignments because they have a lot of resources that can be found in the library. Since the movement control order started at 16 March 2020, if I'm not mistaken, the students were given a notice to go back home and learn from home. So these things make students hard to find resources to complete their assignments and theses. So one of the steps that can be taken to overcome this problem is to upgrade the accessibility of library to become more internet friendly. The students can find any resources that they want by searching through the library's websites and download the portal document format, or we call it as PDF, of the books that they need. So the student will not have any issues of lack of resources again. And then the second problem is the postgraduate students, especially those from the science stream, will be the most affected as they cannot work in the laboratories. Science stream students will have laboratory class as to fulfill the requirement to graduate. Laboratory class cannot be done as the students are at their home. As the steps to overcome this issue, their lecturers need to come up with a new idea of pro forma to evaluate their students by replacing the laboratory class. The lecturers can do a quiz or a test to evaluate the students. After the number of cases decreases, they can make a schedule for the students to come and do some laboratory practical and assessments. The quality of teaching will be compromised due to online learning. Is also the side effect of COVID-19 to the education. While an online method of education can be highly effective alternative medium of education, self-disciplined student, it is an inappropriate learning environment for the dependent learners. Online learning education gives students control over their learning experience and allows for flexibility of study schedule for non-traditional students. However, this places a greater responsibility on the students. In order to successfully participate in an online program, students must be well organized, self-motivated, and possess a high degree of time management skills in order to keep up with the pace of the course. Successful on-ground instruction does not always translate to successful online instructions. If facilitators are not properly trained in online delivery and methodologies, the success of the online program will be compromised. An instructor must be able to communicate well in writing and in the language in which the course is offered. An online program will be weakened if its facilitators are not adequately prepared to function in the online class. An online class instructor must be able to compensate for lack of physical presence by creating a supportive environment in the online class where all students feel comfortable participating, and especially students know that their instructors is accessible. Failure to do this can alienate the class, both from each other and from the instructor. Lastly, students worried if they may not be able to graduate on time, finances, and prospect of employability. This issue should be taken seriously by the university's management to make sure that all their students can graduate while surviving in this pandemic. It is not a good idea to stand due to this pandemic. This university should make sure that the class and examination can be done even the students is learning from home. Regarding the finances, the university should reduce the amount of study fees per semester as to reduce the stress from the students to find the money. For the prospect of employability, the government should create as many jobs that they could to the graduates as to improve the economy, which has become worse due to the pandemic. So that's all from me about the suggestion and steps should be taken to fix the problem, and inshallah my friends will continue with his presentation. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Most of IPTA and IPTS students are affected in this new COVID-19 pandemic because they need to adjust to the new learning environment, which is the online learning. So they might face several problems like low internet, lack of facilities, and so on. Therefore, this should be taken seriously and long-term planning should be planned. Everyone is affected by this new COVID-19 outbreak, which probably result to stress and depression. However, let's not lose hope and have courage to live in this new norm. Don't forget to wear masks, don't forget to keep social distancing, and stay safe.